Hello lovelies, and welcome to my video series on the Draconic Moon through the signs. So glad you're here. I hope you're having a fantastic day, but if not, I hope I can make it a little bit better. If you're new here, welcome. And if you aren't new and you've been around for a while, I want you to know how much I appreciate you, because I really do. Okay, in today's video, we're going to talk about the Draconic Moon in one of the 12 signs, but I will be doing individual videos for each of the other signs as well. So if that's something you're interested in following, be sure and subscribe or check out the playlist available for this series, which I will have posted to my channel. If you don't know what sign your Draconic Moon even sits in, I'll have a link in the description box of this video so you can find out before diving into this series. It's important to know your Draconic Moon because it's essentially your naked, bare soul, what your soul is at its most basic level. You guys know that I preach a lot about how important self-awareness is in terms of being able to accomplish, to heal, to make decisions, to grow. So if you were to imagine your current existence, okay, as a garden containing a large tree, well, the Draconic Moon is the initial seed of that tree. The soil is the body or the ego in which that seed is planted. And your life, the journey that you're on, the stories you're going to be able to tell at the end, or the legacy that hopefully you will have created, that's the tree itself. So in this series, we're essentially working our way back to the beginning, back to that initial seed, which is your soul. By watching this video, you're going to get a comprehension of who you are at a soul level, what you are when you're stripped down to your basic core, and the spiritual fabric your soul was cut and created from. You will also get to take a peek into some potential past lives you've lived and learn about what you mastered in these past lives. The Draconic Moon does represent our mastery. So if you like hearing about what you did well, if you like hearing about, in what ways you're excellent, how you can be a teacher or a shower of the way to others, then you're going to enjoy listening to this video. And I mean, who doesn't like to receive a good compliment every once in a while? I also highly recommend that you watch this video if it's based on someone else's Draconic Moon sign, especially if it's someone who is important to you or someone you want to get closer to, because studying their Draconic Moon is going to help them feel more understood and seen and heard by you. You're going to be able to tap into who they are at a soul level, which is really special. Typically, the Draconic Moon represents the parts of ourselves which we are aware of, but have a hard time getting others to validate within us. We can feel that these parts of our essence are overlooked and unacknowledged by society or those around us. So if you want to connect with someone deeply, very quickly, learn about their Draconic Moon sign. Guarantee it works. Then at the end of the video, I'm going to help you compare and contrast your Draconic Moon sign with your natal chart for this lifetime, and help you question which aspects of your Draconic Moon sign could help you and which could be holding you back from achieving your true purpose. If you want a more comprehensive idea of what I mean by that and why in the world your soul's pure form could actually hinder you in this life, check out the first video I created for this series, which is pretty short and it's to the point. And in that video, I explain how I view the Draconic Moon as a whole and how I utilize it for my clients. If you're excited about this video or in discovering more about yourself and others via astrology, let me know by hitting the thumbs up button. You guys' feedback helps me know what you guys want to see more of. Timestamps and all important links will be down below. Okay, beautiful. I hope you're somewhere quiet and comfy where you can fully disconnect for a bit. Grab a drink or a snack, maybe a blanket, snuggle up to your pet, and let's get into it and talk about your soul's essence. At a soul level, you are courageous, determined, confident, enthusiastic, optimistic, honest, and passionate. The tarot card of your Draconic Moon is the Emperor. At your core, you crave to be independent, self-reliant, and uncompromising in your identity. You place a high value on authenticity and believe that a self-starting attitude and competitive spirit are what get things done. Going it alone energizes you and gives you a thrill that teamwork and joint effort simply don't. You don't like to be bored or in complete stillness or silence, and therefore seek out things to keep you constantly stimulated, whether it be physical activities, games, books, music, movies, but your favorite company is your own, and you feel most connected to yourself and your energy when alone, engaging in the things you love and making tangible progress toward your own goals. Do you think you're using your Draconic Moon energy well in this life? I would love to know what you guys think. Okay, now let's get into my favorite portion of the video and travel back into the past, into the history of your soul, and talk about some of the past lives you've led, who you were, and what you may have accomplished. In past lives, there was an intense focus on the development of your own unique identity. You knew how to avoid compromising your sense of self for the sake of others and were highly independent. You valued authenticity to yourself over everything, no matter the strife or disharmony it might have caused with others. You were physically active, an excellent self-starter, who created a life in which you could lead yourself and didn't need to rely on anyone. You made the decisions, you called the shots, and you took care of your own needs. You enjoyed competition and competitive environments and pushing yourself to be the best. You likely pioneered something new or accomplished something which no one or very few had before you. You wanted to be fully in charge of your own life and perhaps even left home at an early age to create a life of your own. Or maybe you never really had a home in the first place. You could have been orphaned, for example. You definitely did not continue on in the family business or opt to carry on any part of the legacy that came before you. You wouldn't have been the son or daughter of a king, for example. Or if you were, you opted to abandon the throne and royal life entirely to carve your own path. You may have rejected the customs and religion that your parents raised you to embrace, or made the majority of your decisions based upon standing out from the crowd or of what was expected of you by family, society, or otherwise, all for the sake of integrity to yourself. You likely led a life which some may have viewed as rebellious, reckless, or even selfish in some way, often being judged unfairly. One example would be if you were a woman in the 1950s who chose to divorce her husband and pursue a career instead. This choice would go against much of what society deemed as acceptable during that time. Or maybe you chose to marry someone from a totally different race or religion at a time when it was unacceptable, alienating yourself from all your friends and family because of this choice. Or you could have become an adult at a younger than acceptable age, having a child very early by your own choice, maybe even refusing an abortion at a time when giving birth outside of wedlock was frowned upon. It is possible that you refused to marry or were not interested in marriage or long-term commitments with others as well. You may have been divorced, possibly more than once. You had no problem being on your own, and your relationships were never chosen out of desperation or a need to rely on someone. You did not allow people to walk all over you or encroach upon your boundaries. And you knew that offering forgiveness to someone does not necessarily mean that the relationship with them will return to what it was or even need to continue. And you did not have a hard time walking away from those who did not respect your identity. You probably didn't work for anyone but yourself, but even if you worked on a team of some sort, you made sure to stand out from the rest, using your competitive drive and passionate will to succeed beyond others' expectations. You could have been an athlete, an entrepreneur of some sort, a creator, performer, or warrior, but really any industry in which you were able to call the shots for yourself and in which an element of competition with others in order to succeed was involved. In your younger years, you very quickly recognized how different you were from others around you and may have been made to feel separate or apart from them in some way or another. Choosing to embrace what made you you later in life and running with that to achieve your success is what steeped your soul in this independent Aries energy. Due to your past life mastery in the sign of Aries, your soul knows what it feels like to know exactly who you are, feel capable and independent, and loves setting boundaries of protection for itself, as well as saying no when needed. And this is where you can be a guide and teacher to others who are struggling in these areas of their own lives. Let me know if your current life has any consistencies with what we talked about here. Is it vastly different or eerily similar? So I wanted to give you guys some of my personal thoughts and experiences with those who have the Draconic Moon in Aries, because I actually have quite a few in my family, about 6 in total. So one of my grandparents is, one of my siblings is, my daughter is, and 2 uncles and an aunt of mine are all Draconic Moon in Aries, which is another pattern that you'll probably see in families. And I've talked about that before on one of my community posts, how common it is for family members to share similar signs, whether it be, their sun and rising are in the same sign, or their moon and their rising, or even like here with the Draconic moon in Aries. So I've got a lot of Draconic Aries energy in my family. And what I love about people with the Draconic moon in Aries is, regardless of whatever signs they have in this current life, they're very convicted in what they believe, and they stand strong in what they believe and how they feel about something. They're not the type to ruminate or to fall into long periods of self-doubt, questioning like, well, but is that how I should feel about it? Or is this the right thing? They really go off of their gut reaction. They're very connected to their gut, and they let that gut instinct guide them in terms of their choices and how they feel about things. And I envy that in a lot of ways, because I'm definitely not. I can feel convicted about something in one moment and stand strong in that, but catch up with me maybe a day or two later, or even that evening, and you'll see I'll be in like a spiral of self-doubt. But Draconic moon in Aries, not like that at all. Another thing that I've noticed about those with Draconic moon in Aries is they do stand out. They are unique, and they could care less about what's trendy. All of the people in my life with Draconic moon and Aries have had the very same aesthetic in terms of their style and how they present themselves to the world for, since maybe their teenage years. I guess that would be around the age that they kind of come into their own and figure out who they are in the world, and they stick to that. They're not the type that you're going to see like changing up their style necessarily, unless their kind of whole vibe is about, being a bit shocking or a bit quirky or a bit out there. But for the most part, they keep to their aesthetic, and it's an aesthetic that doesn't change regardless of what the trends happen to be 10, 20, 30 years later. There's certain colors that they always gravitate towards and that they become known by. Or maybe it's a certain hairstyle, cut, or color that they keep to, forever. Another thing that I've noticed with Draconic moon and Aries people is that they tend to really thrive when the pressure is on. So in situations in life where everything's crashing down around them, or they've had like a big wake up call sort of moment, like there's no time to lose, they don't sulk. They don't waste any time in those moments. They really stand up and get going. And that's where I see them the most energized, actually. When things become stagnant or a little bit too easy, or there's no rush or deadline, that's when they can fall into, this sort of sloth-like, lazy behavior or mode. Because I think people with Draconic moon in Aries, they like that sort of competitive environment, this idea of it's now or never. I've got to do something. So all the people in my life with Draconic moon in Aries, they've been through some really tough times. My aunts and uncles, the three that I have, they all had children very young, like I'm talking teenagers. And that was a huge wake up call for them. And that's what really pushed them in their, careers and in their lives. My aunt and uncle were working overnight shifts to make ends meet when they were very young, because they became parents at an early age. Another thing I've noticed with Draconic moon and Aries is when they look back on their life, the moments that really define them for them are those moments where they stood up to the group, stood up to the crowd, and said, no, this is what I'm going to do, and I don't care what you think. Those sorts of moments for Draconic moon and Aries are really important to them. Those are precious moments in their life where they were able to, I think, reaffirm who they were as people, reaffirm their strength of character in standing up for what they believe. And another thing I really like about Draconic moon and Aries is they really enjoy simplicity in their lives. They like things to be simple and to the point. They don't like to drag things out forever and ever, even in terms of conversations, decision making. But I'm talking about their life as a whole. The adults that I know with Draconic moon and Aries, they aren't money hungry sort of people. They aren't really interested necessarily in the material other than as a means to provide for themselves and their family, of course. But it's not this obsession of theirs. Their obsession is really in terms of proving to themselves what they're capable of, what they're capable of accomplishing, how much they're able to push through and get through despite the difficulties in the world around them. And they like to create lives that are simplistic or minimalist, I guess would be a good word for it. These Aries Draconic moons in my life are minimalists. They don't like things to be complex or overly complicated. And they are the types that will get annoyed when talking to someone that seems to go on and on and on and really want to elaborate this and delve into that and get into, for them, if there's no point that they can see to like why we're talking about this, that, or the other, they just don't get it. They're like, why is this going, like, get to the point, So they like to be efficient. So if a conversation or a decorative item in their home, even like if it doesn't serve a specific point, whether that point is, well, I need this in the house to kind of balance out the home or balance out the aesthetic that I'm creating, or I'm talking about this with you because I want to understand or improve upon this. If there's not a point, they're going to come out and question and say, okay, but why? Okay, why are we doing this? Because if there's no purpose, can we just stop and move on to something more productive? They are also not the type of people to complain. You're not really going to hear Aries Draconic moons going on and on and on and complaining. And they're also not the type that like to victimize themselves or others. They actually do not like coining themselves as a victim or painting themselves in that way. Even if they are rightfully the victim of a situation, it's rare that you're going to see them admit to that or allow other people to run with that narrative, because they just are very anti that. They don't want to have people view them as a victim in any way, under any circumstance. And again, this is even in circumstances where they rightfully are. Don't even try to express that with them, because it's not going to be received well. And another thing that I really look up to when it comes to Draconic Moon and Aries is their ability to say no without harboring feelings of guilt or shame towards themselves. These are the type of people that, maybe the whole family, for example, is planning a camping trip or a cabin trip, okay? But the Draconic Moon and Aries person really doesn't like tent camping. Let's say it's a tent camping trip. And I'm using this example because literally we've been through this in my family. They're not into tent camping. So if they find, and maybe it's not their thing for whatever reason, maybe they feel, insecure in a tent. Who knows what their reasoning is for it? But that's the thing, that they don't feel the need to justify their reasoning for saying no to something. Some people feel like they need to explain the why. Oh, well, I can't come because of this, this, and this. And it's got to be some sort of tragic situation, or they've got to paint it in such a way where you will be understanding of their reasons for saying no. Well, Draconic Moon and Aries, they don't deal with any of that. If they feel like they want to say no to something, like, no, I'm not going to come on the tent camping trip family thing, that's what they'll tell you. Like, oh, we can't make it that weekend. Regardless of maybe the whole family's decided to go and this is the weekend that works for everyone. And so the family now wants an explanation, like, we can move weekends, or what is it? What's going on? If the Aries Draconic Moon person is saying no simply because they want to, maybe they've got stuff going on in their personal life, for example. But again, they're not going to expose that or feel the need to expose that in order to justify their reasoning for saying no. And I admire that with the Draconic Moon in Aries, because they don't ever feel obligated to sacrifice their personal beliefs or compromise their personal beliefs or what they know is right for them at that time, regardless of how other people are going to view it, regardless of, if certain family members or friends are going to walk away thinking, well, that's selfish or that was rude. They don't get bogged down by that. They have no issue saying, no, I can't make that. And I'm not going to tell you why, because I don't need to tell you why. And I think that's an important thing that a lot of us need to learn from. It reminds me of the royal family in England. They have this phrase called "don't complain and never explain," right? So I think that's a very Aries Draconic Moon sort of mantra. That's something that the Aries Draconic Moon, I think, definitely lives by. They're not complainers, and they don't explain their actions for the most part, especially if it's something they don't feel like they need to. They're not going to explain something for the sake of, well, I just really need you to understand me so that I feel okay about the decision that I'm making. No, if they know that they're making the right decision, they are unbothered by how you might feel about it. And they don't feel that it's their job to pull you into their corner. They think that, well, that's on you. And that's the truth. It really is on the other person. We can't control how other people view us. And I love that the Aries Draconic Moon sign really gets that and they relinquish that sort of control. Like, I'm going to let you be you. You can view me how you want to view me. They're also very unbothered by uh, whether or not people like them. You know, some of us can get really caught up in, I want everyone to like me, and if someone doesn't like me, well, that hurts, and I want to ask them why, and maybe I can adjust myself to be more likable to them. No, an Aries Draconic moon does not care about that. They are who they are, and they understand that there's always going to be people who don't like them and others who will. And I think that's a healthy way to respond to the world, because it is the truth. There's no way to be authentic and be liked by absolutely everyone and to be everyone's cup of tea. So Aries Draconic moon really, really understands that. I think that's something that we can learn from the Aries Draconic moon as we kind of watch them operate out in the world. And of course, you know, everyone has their own aspects in their natal chart. You know, where the south and north node is in one's natal chart is going to have an effect on, you know, how this Aries Draconic moon energy is expressed, of course. So it's not like absolutely everything I'm saying is going to apply fully 100% to you as an Aries Draconic moon or an Aries Draconic moon person that you know in your own life. But this is what I have seen in the Aries Draconic moons in my life. And this is what I admire about them and like about them. Now, this isn't to say that those with the Aries Draconic moon should just fully embrace this Aries energy and, you know, in full force, head on, uh, because, you know, we have our natal chart in this life and we are supposed to be expressing the energies there, not discarding them. Our natal chart in this life is our purpose for this lifetime. So I always think it's important to look at your natal chart and the energies there, what signs are there in the sun, moon, or rising, and figure out what you're supposed to be learning that may be in contrast or different to this past life energy and mastery of the Aries Draconic moon. And so that's what we're going to talk about in the next section, because I want to help you work through and decipher what aspects of your Aries Draconic moon can really help you accomplish your life purpose and what aspects could hinder you, depending on what the signs are in your personal natal chart. You know, if you are a Libra rising in this lifetime, Libra energy is opposite of Aries energy. Libra energy is about being reliant on someone else or committed to them and being willing to compromise at times, to apologize, maybe to change yourself for the sake of another person. So that's a really big contrast to the Aries energy. And so if you just hold on and embrace this Aries energy and discard the natal chart, well, you're essentially discarding your purpose. You know, the rising sign represents the identity that we're meant to grow into in this lifetime. So that's what I want to look at next. I'm going to help you guys walk through your own personal natal chart so that you can determine, you know, what aspects of this Aries Draconic moon to use and how to use it, so that you can really come into your own in this lifetime. So let's take a look at that next. Now that we've got a good comprehension of your Draconic moon and its energy, I want to help guide you through a few questions to ask yourself about this current life. It's important to compare and contrast the sign of your Draconic moon with the signs of your sun, moon, and rising in your natal chart. You want to use the aspects of your Draconic moon that align with your natal chart and keep an eye on the aspects that don't. This will help you in becoming who you are meant to be in this life and prevent you from living in the past or in total disconnect from reality and never moving forward. So, my fiery Aries Draconic moon, for this lifetime, look to see if your sun, moon, or rising are calling you to become more integrated and reliant upon others, to compromise a little more for the sake of harmony and balance, to nurture others, get in touch with your softer and more vulnerable emotions, or to build upon an existing legacy or foundation versus seeking to chase after something brand new to create. Perhaps you were meant to master patience in this life or become a master of logic. Or maybe you're meant to balance out your need to be the very best with an ability to give yourself and others a little bit more grace. Here's another fun tip. Take a look at your natal chart and see what house is ruled by the same energy as your Draconic moon and which planets in your natal chart sit in that same sign. So for example, if your Draconic moon is in Scorpio and in your natal chart, the 10th house is ruled by Scorpio, and let's say your natal Jupiter is also in the sign of Scorpio, these are the areas of your current life where your wise Draconic moon energy can be channeled. Study the meaning of this house and what it pertains to, and study the planet and what purpose it serves in your natal chart and personality. Your natal chart shows you who you are meant to become and grow into in this life in order to achieve your purpose. So, for another example, let's say your Draconic moon is in Libra, but your rising sign in your natal chart is in Virgo. It's important that you're doing what you can in this lifetime to embrace and accept that Virgo energy that's been given to you and express it at its highest octave. Because if you don't do that and you instead cling to the Draconic Libra energy, what's going to happen is you will inadvertently create a shadow self of negative Virgo energy that the rest of the world, friends, and family will experience and see, but you will be blind to. And we don't want that. We want to be in control of ourselves and fully self-aware. Now, every sign has differences as well as similarities. So I can guarantee that your Draconic moon sign shares something in common with your natal sun, moon, or rising sign. It's important to study and determine what this is so you can use your Draconic energy to your advantage, not your disadvantage. So let's stick with the same example of the Draconic moon being in Libra and the rising sign being in Virgo, and let's compare and contrast these energies. Well, both Libra and Virgo value logical and unemotional thinking. Both Libra and Virgo like things to be in order, and both Libra and Virgo like to voice or impose their thoughts and opinions onto others for the sake of facilitating communication and understanding. So in those ways, your Draconic moon energy in Libra can help you express the higher octaves of your rising sign in Virgo. Now let's look at the differences. Okay, so Libra likes to keep things harmonious, and sometimes it will concede to others' opinion for the sake of harmony. Whereas Virgo likes to critique things and point out faults and flaws, even if it may cause disruption for the sake of improvement. Libra cares a lot about aesthetics and beauty, whereas Virgo prefers practicality and usefulness over beauty. So in these ways, your Draconic moon energy in Libra could hinder you from finding your true identity in this life and expressing the higher octaves of that rising sign in Virgo. If any of you need help in dissecting this, just leave me your Draconic moon sign as well as your natal sun, moon, or rising sign down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to help compare and contrast these for you. We usually grow more into our natal chart energy as we age and mature, especially if we're striving towards healing and unconditional love of ourselves and others. But by listening to videos like this one and studying astrology as a whole, you can facilitate that process and speed it up, being able to fully embody your higher self sooner than you would have otherwise. And that's always a win. If you find that you totally relate to your Draconic moon, but feel completely disconnected from your natal chart, I recommend you watch a video I did on how and why we sometimes don't feel our natal chart is accurate to who we truly are. I have a section in the video on the Draconic moon specifically, and I'll leave the video link right here so you can check that out next. Thank you so much for coming. If you stayed until the end, you are a trooper. Kudos to you. I'm looking forward to having you around for the rest of the series. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, my love.